Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sim's YouTube channel, and welcome back to another episode here on Midtown USA. This is episode number 9, and we are in the 7th game day of the game and late spring, and it's just after 6 o'clock in the morning here. And as we sort of leave our home here, which is right next to our farm, we'll walk by. I see the kids left the clothes hanging out on the line there. Hopefully you won't see my long johns there. But if you take a look there, yes, ladies and gentlemen, all around here we do have crops that are starting to poke their little heads out of the ground there and soak up the awesomeness of the sun and the moisture and everything, of course, that we get here on this wonderful map. And I see that we're still living in olden times there with that humongous satellite dish. But hey, whatever we can do to get our television programming and everything here on the farm, can't miss an episode of the Price is Right, right? So anyway, that's a good sign to see. I still don't know if our crops will basically, at least our wheat and barley, will come in with enough time for us to get it off the fields, get it into our silos, basically bale the straw or pick the straw up, and then also be able to get the field turned around, cultivate it, fertilize it, and then reseed it in soybeans. But that is the plan, is to basically do that. That is what our goal is for this year. At least be able to plant double crops on a couple of fields. I'm not going to say we're gonna. I'm not gonna basically say that we're gonna get all of our wheat and barley fields, because I believe we have two. I believe we have two wheat and one barley. I think. Let me just pull up the map here so we can speak more intelligently. Yes, we've got two wheat and one barley. I'm not sure if we're going to be that aggressive with it and say that we're going to get 3 fields double planted, but we're certainly going to give it our every effort to be able to do that. So we'll just park our truck over here in the shade. It's currently 72 degrees here, 75-degree soil temperature, and so we'll park that there because I'm sure some of the boys are going to need that to do what they need to do. Our chore this morning is going to be to mow the 2 hay meadows down on the southern end of the farm. Of course, I'm talking about fields number 19 and fields number 18. So we're gonna just head down there and get started with this little project. We don't need fuel right now, so we'll head down there. I think what we're going to do, the plan is going to be to go ahead and mow that this episode, and then most likely in the next episode, which I think will be episode number 10, we will essentially tether it. We might tether it in this episode. I guess it kind of depends on how quick the mowing takes. But we are going to tether it, we are going to rake it, and we are going to bale it as hay. We need the hay. We're still okay on grass as far as silage is concerned. And of course, I'm playing with the mod, which basically allows us to feed grass and or hay to the cows, so we do not have to feed grass as an independent food item. I find that to be just a little bit more realistic because, again, and I've had this conversation in previous episodes, but it sort of, to my memory, and to others who basically sort of are also have some limited experience in farming. Basically, nobody really feeds grass directly to cows, at least not as a general rule, and so that's basically what we're going to do, is not do that. Of course, I've talked about that before. So let's go ahead and get our mowers all going here, and it's been a little while since I've mowed as well, I think. There we go. All right, and we are off. Not going to expect to get a whole lot of grass right there, but we'll come along. In the grass, we checked it. Earlier, and it's at its optimum growth stage as far as being able to cut. I suppose it's possible that we could have let it grow a little bit longer and had a little bit more yield out of it, but also I'm hopeful that we can get a couple of cuttings off of these two fields down here, and at least, I don't know, at least one cutting, if not perhaps two on field number 12, I think, which is our other hay meadow to the east of the farm. And if at that particular point in time, if we need to have some grass for silage making, then we can basically obtain that from that field and be just fine. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Hope you are still surviving from your holidays, both Christmas and New Year's. I'm still in 2017 as I record this, so trying to continue with my efforts on keeping a bit of a queue built up, and not wanting it to get too far ahead, because again, I enjoy talking about things that are a little bit here in the here and now, as far as news and stuff goes, that's affecting farm sim or the simulation world as a whole. And so I don't want to get too far ahead where my episodes, the things that I'm talking about, are 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks out. But I do have still a bit of a queue, and I'm going to try to work to hold that queue just so that I stay about a week, maybe a week and a half ahead of things, and that will help me in the event that I need to travel, or in the event that I need to kind of be away from my gaming computer, or just kind of do other things. As I've talked about before, I have multiple hobbies that is of interest to me, and of course I enjoy the simulation gaming hobby immensely. I enjoy bringing you the videos. I had someone leave a comment between Christmas and New Year's talking about how that they found my videos to be somewhat relaxing and whatnot, and it's as relaxing for me to be able to put these things together and bring them to you, and it's good medicine for me as well. So in addition to playing a little bit of Farm Sim 17, and again kind of keeping trying to keep my my backlog and everything alive, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight here, and we're going to mow this this more rectangular piece to my right, and then we'll come back and we'll finish this small square. But anyway, in addition to playing Farm Sim 17 and of course continuing to build up a bit of a backlog for you guys, again for reasons, so in case I have to travel or just find myself away from my computer for a few days, I don't get behind, and I don't I don't miss any sort of schedule. So I have been playing, as you all know, because I've talked about it on my episodes, I have been playing Farmer's Dynasty, and the grind and everything is real. That is just a very slow process. I typically, anytime that I play a game like this, and the only thing that I can really say that sort of somewhat relates to Farmer's Dynasty that I have recently played, where I have had to sort of grind my way through some levels and everything to accumulate some money. Obviously, way back when GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5 first came out, I was grinding away to try to, establish my career as a car heist, liquor store robber and all that kind of stuff, and work my way up to owning a high-rise penthouse apartment, which I did do, and I've got a garage full of cars. Hopefully they're still there. But also Car Mechanic Simulator 15 and of course Car Mechanic Simulator 17 that just came out a few months ago. Those are really what I can sort of relate to as far as being the type of games where I've been required to kind of grind away at establishing some money, establishing some experience points or some social points or whatever. In Farmer's Dynasty, the experience points that you might think of as far as Car Mechanics Simulator 15 or 17 goes, those are kind of social. Those are referred to as social points in Farmer's Dynasty. And again, I've been kind of just grinding away. I'm still in the first year. I'm still actually in August. The game starts you off on August the 1st. And I'm still in August. I think I'm like on the 10th day of August or something like that. And I've managed to collect, I think, all of the equipment on the map that I need. I think maybe the only thing that I haven't discovered yet, or I haven't managed to get free from a neighbor by doing some work for them, is perhaps the manure spreader. But anyway, I don't have any cows right now, so that's not a priority for me. But anyway, you get 2 fields when you start the map, and of course your primary objectives are to essentially repair your farm and then go around the neighborhood there, the little farming community, and do work for other people to basically convince them to give you, in exchange for this work, in exchange for repairing some greenhouses, repairing a barn, maybe do some plowing or whatever, you get, in exchange for that work, you get some equipment. You get an old rundown tractor, an old rundown tipper, a seeder, things like that. And so, as I said, I've managed to collect most of that gear. And but you get 2 fields when you start off that your grandfather passed down to you. And those fields, one of those fields was wheat, one of those fields was canola. Well, so I harvested both of those and basically sold the canola, and then I sold the wheat. There's a sell point for the wheat that's a little further away, but they pay a little bit better price per ton, I suppose, for the wheat. And so sold that. And then, since I wasn't planning on having any cows at least this first year, I did a little research and I found out that you can also sell the straw. And so a trailer full of straw will earn you $3,000 or 3,000 euro, as in the case of Farmer's Dynasty, since it's based on the euro monetary system. So 3,000 euros. So I managed to, between selling the crops, between selling, I think, 2 trailer loads full of straw, I managed to have enough money to buy a fairly large field. It was over 1 point something hectare acres, or whatever, however you say that. I think it was in the $13,000 to $14,000 range, I think, was the price of the field. So and it's just down below the main farm location. And again, I'm trying to keep things somewhat centrally located, and by that I mean I don't want to have to drive all over the map. I don't want to have to move my harvester to the other ends of the earth just to be able to harvest a field that I own. So I somewhat strategically try to ensure that the fields that I purchased, I wanted them to have crops on them, because I wanted to be able to basically turn around and harvest the crops from that field and then see how it goes. So I purchased the first field, which happened to be canola, and harvested that field, and essentially with the price that I was able to sell the canola for, and essentially I went ahead and just took the canola directly off the field and carted it to the sell point. I didn't even bother loading it into my silo, because that would just be an extra trip. And while the harvest took a little bit longer because of this, because obviously the drive to the sell point is a little further away than the drive to the farm silo, I was able to at least get immediate cash, and then after I sold the very last load of canola, I had enough money to then buy a second field, which happens to be a wheat field. And my plan there is to go ahead and harvest the wheat off of it in August, and then go ahead and bale the straw and sell the straw as well. And hopefully then purchase another smaller field that, as of right now, it doesn't have any crops on it, but it's just too close to the main farm to basically not buy it right now. And then that way, when I go into the spring season, that is, if I decide to wait till spring to harvest, there's some discussions in the steam groups that some people are able to seed in August and September and get crops a bit earlier, so that may be a strategic plan to see how that works out. Of course, you could also just waste all your effort in plowing and seeding and fertilizing and everything, only to find out in spring that your crops have died. That is somewhat of a bit of controversy, I think, in the sense that we don't necessarily know. The developers haven't necessarily come out and said publicly just exactly how the growth cycles and everything works, and that's a bit. I understand that the game is in early access, and I appreciate all that they're doing to essentially improve the game, which they are. There's updates. Well, there hasn't been an update to my knowledge since the 22nd of December, but hey, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and it is the holidays, and I certainly, don't ask anyone to do anything to work and break their neck and everything over the holidays. They need to enjoy time with their family and their friends and everything, just like we do. So that's okay. I'm okay with that. Hopefully there'll be some updates after the first of the year, maybe if not before. I don't know. But anyway, I'm weaving here like I'm drinking and driving, or texting and driving, and I'm not. But anyway, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully in time the developers will kind of put together maybe some more valid FAQs. Right now the FAQs are pretty much either member created and kind of developer confirmed, but again, there's not a whole lot of information as far as like strategy guides and stuff like that that says that you should do it this way. I've read some reports of folks that kind of try to do things farm sim style. In other words, trying to incorporate some of the strategies that they have used within Farm Sim 15 or 17, only to find out that they've gotten burned because they've lost their crops or whatever. So I think one example to that was somebody had plowed and then fertilized, and only to find that when they came around to cultivate, after they had fertilized, after they had plowed, that basically the cultivation process, the act of cultivating the field, essentially wiped away the fertilization layer that they had applied the step before. And so obviously that's an issue, I think, because even regardless, we can argue, folks could argue and say, well, in the real world, you basically do it this way. Okay, you do it step 1, step 2, step 3, whatever. You can argue and say in the real world that's how it's done. However, I think regardless of what you do, if you were to put some fertilizer on the ground, and if you were to plow that in, or if you were to cultivate that in, that level of fertilization is still going to be there. That soil will still have fertilizer in the soil that's been cultivated, tilled into the soil, plowed into the soil, whatever. If you were to measure that, there would be elements of the fertilizer there present. And so clearly it's just kind of a point, I think, that the developers need to tell us, the customers, the players, that this is how they've programmed the game. But they shouldn't, and as I say that, also they shouldn't essentially program the game in such a way that by cultivating after you fertilize, that it completely wipes that layer of fertilization away, because again, as I said before, it would still be there. So we're coming up on about 20 minutes, and I need to, while I'm thinking about it here, pause briefly, get a screenshot. I'll be right back with you. All right, and I'm back. So we're coming up on about 20 minutes here into the episode, so I'm not real sure that we're actually going to get to tethering this. So we might, I don't know. We'll just see. I don't want to, I don't want things to run too long. But in addition, you know, I like to try to have a variety of stuff. There's a gold nugget that we'll just mow over for right now. Anyway, I have taken I've taken another look at cattle and crops. There have been some significant updates to the game over the course of this last several months. And, you know, you might remember if you were watching my episodes back in the springtime of 2017, or even winter time of 2017, even after Farm Sim 17 came out, I was pretty much talking about cattle and crops and my excitement about how that, you know, I really thought that this was going to be a game that was going to give giants a little bit of maybe sleepless nights, a little bit of stress and anxiety and everything, because this thing was supposed to really set the world on fire as far as agricultural based simulation games go. And so all the delays and everything that went into the game, all the issues with that we had once it did come out for early access, the fact that third-party controller support, specifically wheel support, which I often talk about, is just wasn't there. Some folks had a little bit of luck getting the G27 or G29 Logitech wheels to kind of be recognized by cattle and crops in the early stages, but as soon as you stopped the game and went back in, most of the time you had to reset everything. And I just, you know, at that particular point in time, and it still applies today, I'm really just not interested in playing a driving game where the majority of what you do is driving something, whether it be a tractor, a truck, a plane, whatever, without third-party external controllers, just simply because I play these games for the level of immersion. And while I may not do everything textbook, I still enjoy the immersion that these simulation-based games provide. And I am of the belief, in my opinion, even in early access, these game developers need to nail down their controller support from day one. I realized the roadmaps for both cattle and crops, for Farmer's Dynasty, for Pure Farming, for Farm Sim 19, you know, that we don't know exactly what it's going to be and all of that kind of stuff. I understand the roadmaps are often quite busy. I understand that there's a lot that these developers need to do, but I think that developers lose money from people like me, even though I've given my money to cattle and crops and I've given my money to Farmer's Dynasty. But there's been so many people that have basically come out and said, you know, you'd have my money right now, even with early access, if you just had controller support. Because to these people, having controller support, knowing that there's somewhat of a guarantee that third-party controller support, that our Logitech wheels or pedals or whatever will work with the game, even after it's gone out of early access stage, is important. It's critical. It's something that, you know, we all want and need. Well, so you know, I talk a lot about PCSG, and it is one of the best farm sim simulation-based game communities that you'll find out there. And the great thing about it is there's so many different members that all have sort of similar experiences and are all playing the same kind of games and stuff like that, that there's this wealth of information. There's all this help that's available. And so my good friend Mike, Reefy 1952, also was an early adopter, early access person for cattle and crops. And so Wonko, the site owner, had posted a note about some updates that cattle and crops had basically done over the period of the last several months. And again, my first and only experience with cattle and crops was really about an hour or so with the game, and most during that time I was frustrated because I was trying to get the controllers to work. I really, at that particular point in time, I had said in my mind that I was not interested in playing the game, in testing the game, in doing anything with cattle and crops until I could get my third-party controllers working, until I could get my Logitech G27 working with the game. And so I became so frustrated that, remember, again, I play these simulation-based games as a stress release. I have a stressful job that I spend, anywhere from 40 hours on a light week to 60 plus hours on a heavy week. And I do this, and I play these games simply because, where are we going to park this? Let's detach all this stuff right in here. Well, I'm sure we'll end up moving it 50 times before it's all said and done, but we'll drop this in here like that, and then we'll back out and we'll put the butterfly mowers right in front of it. So anyway, I decided that, for my own sanity, I did not want to essentially drive myself crazy with, drop that right there, with drive myself crazy and trying to figure out how these controllers and everything worked back in May or June, whenever it first came out. And so I put it aside, and I ended up actually uninstalling it from my hard drive because I was so frustrated at it, and I pretty much said, okay, I'm just going to write off this investment. I don't think I'll ever see anything from it, and I'm bitter, yes. I'm upset, yes. I think that these developers have everything sort of backwards as far as what their priorities are. And then along came Farmer's Dynasty, and I started seeing stuff on YouTube about that. And of course, as I have said, initially Farmer's Dynasty had come out and said that they weren't even thinking about controllers. And again, my mindset is that should have been some of the first lines of code that got wrote into the game, was for controller support, because again, I go back to so many comments that I see from people that say, I would buy I would basically buy this game if it had controller support today. Even if the controller support was a little bit flaky, I would still buy your game because it's important. I like everything else that I see. I like the visual aspects of the game. I like the ideas that you have in your roadmap and all this kind of stuff. But they don't have their priorities in the right order. Anyway, long story short, again, folks, cattle and crops have come a long way over the last 4 or 5 months since I really last cast my eyes on it. And so I've reinstalled it. I am giving it a go. Again, back to Mike, Reefy 1952. He has stated in PCSG that he's had some success in getting the G27 working with cattle and crops. He admits that cattle and crops still has a long ways to go. There's still some bugs. It's still limited in what you can do, but they have released a new map. And I will say that from the visuals and everything, from the visuals of cattle and crops, it is simply stunning. It is simply stunning. The equipment is stunning. The graphics, the grass and the textures, all that kind of stuff are also stunning. and I'm quite excited for it. And I will have to admit that that level of excitement has never really ended, even though I've been a bit bitter over the whole thing, just simply because I invested some money in it, and it was really my first. It was really my first endeavor in crowdfunding a video game. I've crowdfunded some other things before in my life and have had very good success from that, but this was really the first time that I had crowdfunded a video game. And I understand, after having done this and reading other people's experiences on other games and all this kind of stuff, and some folks have had good experience and some folks have had really rotten, lousy experience and never really saw anything from their investment. So at least we're seeing something. But still, I've got to say that, as far as cattle and crops is concerned, my return on investment is still zero at this particular point in time, because it still has a lot of work to do. But I'm hopeful that they'll get it all sorted out. But for me to really spend any amount of time with it, I think I want to see the controllers and everything working. Now, having said that, I am playing Farmer's Dynasty with just an Xbox type controller, and that seems to be working okay. And it is somewhat limited, but in Farmer's Dynasty, at least up until I've really reached the stage where I am now, I haven't been doing a whole lot of driving. I mean, yeah, there is some driving and everything involved in it, but you do a lot of repairs for other farmers and stuff like that, and so that's kind of walking around and repairing barns and greenhouses and stuff like that. So anyway, all right. So we have mowed, and we are in the process, or I am in the process of tethering this grass to turn this into hay. So when we come back for the next episode number 9, most likely I will have tethered this, and maybe we'll spend a little bit of time raking it, and then probably the balance, the majority of the episode will be baling this hay into hay bales, which we need to. Obviously, we'll move up to our main barn there and stack it with the rest of the hay that we had left over from last year, and essentially continue to move the chains of progress on down the road. And of course, this was just 2 fields that we have of grass. We still have another slightly larger field that is also planted in grass that's not ready to cut yet. So we have that to look forward to. Of course, cutting grass, tethering, raking, and baling is one of my favorite things about Farm Sim, and so I quite enjoy that. But we've still got other things that we need to do. We need to take care of the animals. We need to, basically get ready for as soon. And we're about, we're playing nine game day season. So we've got 2 more game days for this particular spring season, and so I'm hopeful that when we start getting much into, maybe even a little bit before we are where we are now in summer, that wheat and barley will be ready to come off the fields, because that's going to be more or less full court press, as I believe Farmer Klein had identified his activities when he reached that stage on his Midtown USA series, which he's a little bit ahead of me, or quite a ways ahead of me, I think, actually. But yeah, it was pull out all the stops, full court press, all hands on deck, all of those kind of analogies to describe basically getting everybody working, having multiple, course play routes, all that kind of stuff to assist in getting the wheat cut, get it in the silos, and then basically get the straw baled and get it off the fields, and then essentially start fertilizing, cultivating, and seeding again. So that is the plan. That is what we are looking forward to. It's kind of been the excitement for this map, is the ability to have a weather geo that more favors farming here in the U.S., in the Midwest of the U.S., and having the luxury or the ability to be able to perhaps try to rotate a couple of fields and get two crops off of them in the same game year, which will be obviously way cool if we can achieve that. So without further ado, I'm going to start wrapping things up and say thank you all so much for watching. I hope you are having a wonderful 2018. I will have to let you know how my end of 2017 and beginning of 2018 goes, because as I said at the top of the show, I am still very much still in 2017, but not for much longer. Just a couple of days left to go. Anyway, again, thank you all so much for watching. Please check out all my friends down below the video. You'll see links to other YouTube channels. Those are all great producers of awesome content, family-friendly content, etc. Also, please check out PCSG and the Three Dudes Gaming Network. Also, check into my Discord server and say hi when you have a few minutes. And also, what else did I want to say? One more thing, I think. If you see a mod on any of my videos, you'll find my complete mod list by going to grizzlybearsims.com. Again, that's grizzlybearsims.com, and you'll find that mod list. And look at the bottom, and it will say FarmSim 17, ETS2, ATS, FarmSim 15, etc. You'll see my mods from those games that I use. And I appreciate you watching, and I hope you're taking good care of yourself and take care of each other. All we have in this world is ourselves and each other. So let's all band together and work towards some common goals and everything, and make everything a lot better for our future generations and all that good stuff. So thank you again for watching. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you back here on Midtown USA, or maybe over on Thornton Farm. Take good care. Bye-bye.